Hi guys, welcome back. In this tutorial I will show you guys how to create this simple animation in Adobe After Effects. This animation is entirely done using After Effects only. So with this tutorial you will be learning how to create shapes inside After Effects and modify them and animating them using basic keyframes. And also I will teach you some basics of how to use the easy ease option and using the graph editor how to change the flow of the animation. Alright guys, so let's get started. Alright, let's create a composition, and for this I'm going to stick to 4K size and I will name this one as cat animation, and 4K is okay, 60 frames all okay. Just select OK, which will create the file in here. First thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the background for the animation. For this I'm going to create a blank color layer. To do that, right click on the timeline, go to new and select solid, and in here you can select your color. So for my background I am going to select a custom color and OK. Before I say OK, I'm going to rename this layer as BG and OK, which will create the layer in the timeline. Alright, so now you can see our background layer has been created. Now let's go and start drawing our shapes. First shape I'm going to draw is a rectangle, and make sure you have selected the rounded corner rectangles, and let's start drawing a shape like this in here. Okay, alright, we can bring this rectangle down a bit. Let's bring down a bit. Okay, and make sure to select this layer and go back again and draw a ellipse in the same shape layer. Okay, like this. Alright, to draw on the same shape layer you have to select the layer which you wanted to draw, and also to maintain the proper aspect ratio of the circle, hold on to the shift key. Adjust the circle precision like this, almost bring to the top and make them align to center. You can select individual rectangle and the circle by going into the layer and opening up the content inside. You will also see additional parameters which are attached to each of these shapes. Select rectangle and the circle, zoom in and align until you get the seamless shape like this. You can also select individual shape by clicking on each of these shapes. If you want to select the rectangle, just select on the rectangle and you can modify in the composition area. Now go back to the layers and open up the rectangles inside content. Open the rectangle path. As you guys can see in here, each of these shapes have its own modifier elements, and all of these modifiers have its own parameters which you can modify or animate using these settings in here. In addition to this, you can also add in more elements from this add button on top. For this rectangle, what we are going to do is we are going to use the path element, and we are going to make the size of the path smaller. I don't need the size to change in the width area, I only need to change the size from the height. Deselect the width and height link first, then go into height and change the width until you satisfied with your size. Once you're happy with your size, go back again, select both of them, align them to the center. Now you can close the contents and open the transform in here. Please keep in mind guys, these transform settings are for the entire layer. So whatever changes you make in here will affect both the circle and the rectangle equally. Again in here also I'm going to deselect the width and height link and this time I'm going to bring the width of these shapes 120%. I applied this to the scale of this shape layer. Now we can close this one. Again, let's open up the contents of the shape layer. Inside rectangle, open the fill. Now I want to change the color of these shapes, so I'm going to apply a different color than the background. I'm going to apply the same color for the rectangle also. Let's close this one and open the rectangle and open the fill again. This time select the eyedropper and select the color from the ellipse. Let's close the content and open the transform again, and this time I want to change the anchor point placement of this object. The reason for this one is I will explain it to you guys later. First thing what I want to do is I want to bring this center point to the center portion of this bottom part. Alright, so let's do that first. Adjust the anchor points in the transform tool until you get the perfect results. You can also zoom in and get a better clear view of this, like this in here. I think this should be okay. Alright, once you are done, you can close this one and right click on the layer and go to rename in the below and name this one as body. This will be the body of our cat, and you can zoom out now. Alright, let's bring this object to the left and let's start working on other things. Open the body layer again, go to content and open the content of the rectangle, and inside the path bring the corner radius until you see a radius which will match with your design. For mine, I think this size is okay. Again, you need to adjust the positions and scaling. Okay, I think for my design it should be okay. So roughly until you get a shape like this in here, something like a hamburger, try to work on the shape. Alright, now close this body and click outside, deselect first, then go back to shapes and draw another rounded rectangle shape like this, little bit longer than the current one and shorter than the current one. Again, I'm going to adjust the size for this one and the position. Open the rectangle, open the fill. This time again get the color from the body and let's bring the corner radius to maximum. Almost one side should look like a half circle, and I will move this towards x-axis using the position until I get this shape. And again for this one also I'm going to adjust the anchor point to the bottom center. Let's do that first. I will use the precision to move it to the center point. Okay, this look better. Alright, so now I will bring back to the earlier position like this in here. Okay, so I close this and let's rename this one, and I'm going to rename this one as head, and let's close this one also. Okay, so let's scale up this head a bit, only towards y-axis. I think this is okay, and maybe a little bit more longer until you see a cat shape, somewhat flat design silhouette. Alright, this is okay. So now I'm going to draw another shape in here. Same as earlier, I'm going to shapes and I'm going to select rounded rectangle and draw a small rectangle like this in here. Open up the rectangle parameters, go to here, rectangle, and then open the rectangle path 1 and bring the corners as rounded corners, same as earlier. Bring it to the maximum until you see half circles in both sides. and also adjust the size a bit like this until you are satisfied. This is going to be our mouth, and I think this size is okay. And let's apply a fill color. Go to fill and double click on the color palette in here, and apply a fill color here. Okay, looks good. Let's close this and again right click this one, and let's rename this one. So I'm going to rename this one as mouth -1. Later I will explain why I put number 1. Before that, let's have some parent child link to these objects in here. With the parent child link, you can link a layer to a different layer, and whatever the changes you make to the parent layer will be applied to child layer automatically. So that's what we are going to do in here. You can select this icon, just select the parent layer like this, and for the mouth I have selected add as a parent layer, you can see in here, and for the head you will see the body is its parent layer, which I have done earlier. So whatever changes you make for the body will affect the head also, because head is our parent layer for mouth -1, it will affect the mouth as well. Alright, okay, so let's move on to the next step. Now I'm going to create the eyes. For that, I'm going to draw a circle from the shape layer, and let's go into the circle and open up the contents. For this circle, I want to off the fill and on the stroke. We don't need a fill color for this one, we are only going to work with stroke, so that's the reason I have activated the stroke and deactivate the fill. And for this one, we are going to add a new parameter from this add button. So let's go to the add button and select add trim paths, and now you can see there is a new parameter appears under the ellipse. Now at the start of the trim path, change the value to 90%. We need to change this offset value here to rotate this path, so let's change it to 90 degrees, which will turn it to 90 degrees like this. Now if you see in here, end of the stroke, it's looking really flat, so let's go into the stroke and change the cap to rounded cap instead of butt cap, like this, round cap. Alright, now you will see these caps change to rounded caps. And also let's bring up the stroke value to 15 maybe, and change the color to a darker tone. Alright, so now we close this shape, select this one and rename this one as eye. Alright, let's go into the component, select the circle and Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, which will replace a copy of this exact circle in here. Let's arrange this to look like eyes. Alright, okay, so our eyes also ready now, and let's go into our next step. Next step is really easy. We are just going to draw the tail of this cat. Let's go into the timeline, go into the shapes and select the rounded rectangle and draw a rectangle like this in here. And let's bring the corner radius bigger, same as earlier, and let's select the color from this high in here, and let's position it a little bit more behind like this. Rename this one to tail, T-A-I-L, tail. Alright, that's it for this one. Now I'm going to draw the legs. It's going to be same as earlier, rectangles, and draw a smaller rectangle like this. Change the size and the roundness from the rectangle path parameters. Also go and change the fill color from the fill settings as well. Now bring this leg to front or back, and you can also adjust the size of this leg to go with your artwork size. Once you satisfied with your size, just place it. Go back to this layer and rename this one as front leg. If you place it in the front leg 1, and Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and this one you just name it front leg 2, and bring this one up a bit and close this, and Ctrl C, Ctrl V again, and this time I will move these two closer to the tail. I will name this one as back leg. And from the layer position, I will bring this underneath the tail layer. Okay, next I'm going to draw the ears. It's going to be same steps as earlier. Just select the rounded rectangles and draw a rectangle like this in here. Go to rectangles, open up content, and change the color to same as tail color. You can have any color you want, and rename this one as ears. Ears number 1, and bring this layer underneath the head layer, so you will see behind the head like this in here on the screen. And make sure to make the corner radius similar to other objects in the artwork, and make the rectangle a bit longer. And again make a copy, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. This one also bring under the head layer, and this one rename as ears 2. Okay, that's it. Our ears are done. We will animate them later on to make them look a little bit more nicer than this. So for now just leave it, but link both of these ears to the head. Now we are going to draw the nose of the cat. Go to shape and select the star tool and draw a star like this in here. Open the content and open the path and change the points to 3. Go to rotation and rotate until you get a shape like this. Bring the shape to the mouth area here, and go to the additional tool and add another element at rounded corners, and increase the roundness of the corners. Decrease the size of outer radius. Now adjust the size using scale inside transform tool. You can adjust the position as well. Unlink the XY link and scale it towards Y axis. Now you can place it in the correct place like this. Change the fill color inside fill by selecting any of the color, and then we can close this one and rename this as nose. Alright, so our nose also done. So let's move on to the next step. Select the ellipse tool from the shape and draw two ellipses like this, and try to mesh both of these ellipses with the mouth layer and adjust the size to fit into the X and Y scale. We can leave this mouth layer with this temporary color. We will be changing this later on after we done with our animation. Okay, so these two layers I'm just going to leave like this. This will be part of the face, which is going to animate later. Next step, let's draw the mouth. Before that, I will rename this layer as mouth number 2. Okay, move this layer on top of mouth 1 and shapes and draw a rounded rectangle like this. Again, we open up the content of the rectangle, bring the corners as rounded corners, get the color from the tail or anywhere you want, rename this one as mouth, and bring it underneath the face 01, and You can adjust the precision like this. Alright guys, so I think all shapes are done. So our model is ready for animation, and please try this one on your own if you are new to After Effects. And in the part 2 we will be linking all of these objects, and also I will show you guys how to animate this object like this here in the screen. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. See you guys in the next part.